of 2021 top, monthly candle close top, 59,000 roughly. So 59,000 is what we just touched, and 59,000 is a very important candle body close zone. Most likely, Bitcoin's going to bounce off of here and close the month higher. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Svenson, and today we're going to be discussing Bitcoin, some news, and a few other things. And if you guys want more insights on the daily, on what I think, what I'm looking at, charts, trades, altcoins, then be sure to join the Patreon. We do have an annual discount currently, and we have limited slots. Now, Bitcoin is below 60,000 as I'm making this video. We had a dip today. We had the CPI Inflation Report, and the expectation was 2.3, but we had a 2.4 reading. That means that we are still trending down because it was July 2.9, August 2.5, and September 2.4. Still continuing to come down in inflation, but not as much as expected. And so there was a negative reaction at first in the stock market. First of all, the S&P came down, but we didn't hit much of a lower low here. This is a very short-term chart just today. So we're not really dumping for the stock market, but Bitcoin did see some downside. Didn't handle it as well. Now, before we get into the charts, one of the Fed members, Fed Austin Goolsbee, mentioned that today inflation actually came in around his expectation. So one of the Fed members said that this is what he expected. Each Fed member has a little bit of a different viewpoint on where things are going or what the expectation is. According to him, we hit expectation. So it didn't come in too far off of what was actually expected, as some Fed members expected a 2.4 instead of a 2.3. And also Goolsbee mentioned that the Fed projections show that the vast majority of them believe that over the next 12 to 18 months, rates come down a fair amount. Still, rates are looking to come down regardless of today's CPI print. And also another piece of news which came in yesterday, the FBI arrested multiple people, charged 18 individuals and entities with international operations of widespread fraud, manipulation, and wash trading. I'm sure you guys may have heard of this. The FBI running what's called Operation Token Mission, where they caught a lot of market manipulators who were washing altcoins, pumping the prices up to artificially high levels, making people think that they were going up for a reason, and then just dumping it. So the FBI is coming after the bad actors, which is ultimately not a bad thing. The market yesterday had a bad reaction to it. This dip yesterday was on the news, the FBI news. We dumped, and then CPI report comes out, dump again. So crypto just can't catch a break right now. It's kind of disappointing. Although Bitcoin, it's not like Bitcoin hasn't seen these prices before. We've kind of just been going sideways. We're right in the middle of the range. If you look at Bitcoin's price action and you mark up the resistance line, we are in a possible downward channel. Maybe we're looking to come back up and tag the top of the channel. There's also this perspective, which is that Bitcoin may be in the midst of forming a falling wedge, which means we may see a little bit more downside to complete the pattern, squeeze the longs even more before getting a bounce. That is something that I'm seeing in the charts right now. We may be looking at the end of this dip. As long as the stock market remains stable, I think Bitcoin should be near completion of this pattern. You know, maybe we go lower, but in theory, if that was the low, you know, Bitcoin could see a pretty nice recovery. If you extrapolate the falling wedge, give us a fairly nice bounce to recover from this range. Yesterday on Twitter, I was saying that I have a good feeling that the dump that we saw had something to do with just internal issues in crypto, because the price action doesn't really make sense when considering that the S&P is just trending into new all-time highs. Usually, that type of an environment is like really good for Bitcoin. In the past, almost every time the S&P starts trending into new all-time highs, Bitcoin is following it. A bit of a wonder why Bitcoin isn't pumping. It should be, it usually does. So it's a bit strange, I must say. It is a little bit strange. But if the S&P can maintain this zone, Bitcoin should begin to break out of this falling wedge. Now, one area that we do not want to be falling below is the trend line, right? So we have an upward sloping trend line. Just show you guys this right here, right? And this comes in sort of at the end of where the falling wedge is mapped out. So yeah, maybe we squeeze down into, 57,000 or so, just above 57,000, maybe. That would be the full extent of the falling wedge. Maybe we bounce sooner, because when you're 70% of the way into a pattern, that is the pattern completion zone. So we are in the pattern completion zone, which means Bitcoin could, in theory, bounce at any time and start to recover. So we need to bounce above that trend line. We definitely want to bounce above that trend line. And also looking at the Bitcoin monthly chart, if you click on your curved line tool, mark the lowest low and bring it up to where we are now, yes, we are still in a parabolic trend. We are also pretty close to the all-time high. Doesn't seem like it, but we're about 23% away. And from the current low in August, we're like 17, 18% away. So we're right in the middle of this range. And if you look at these monthly candle closes, our lowest monthly candle closes, we're sitting right here, just about 59,000, which was also this zone here of 2021 top, monthly candle close top, 59,000 roughly. So 59,000 is what we just touched, and 59,000 is a very important candle body close zone. So most likely Bitcoin's going to bounce off of here and close the month higher, right? If I had to take a guess, every time the market came back to test anything lower than 59,000, we just got huge wicks. That signals major demand, right? We just got bought right back up into the monthly close. So Bitcoin probably just hit support. I mean, those could be famous last words, right? But to me, it seems like the election season, we should be on track. We should be going up, most likely. But in terms of cycle timing, I mean, we're not really far off from where we usually start to go to the moon. If you look, Bitcoin was actually below the all-time high during the 2016 election. We were still below the all-time high by about 35% below the previous all-time high. In 2020, we were at the all-time high during the election. Right now, Bitcoin is currently minus 13% below the all-time high, and the election comes next month. So we're not really off base by any means. We're also on track in terms of the halving cycle. In the past cycles, from halving, it took about 8 or 9 months for us to start trending above the all-time high. 2020 halving, about 6 months to start trending above the all-time high. And we are 5 months in. 8 months, 6 months, currently 5 months. So we're not off schedule. We are actually still on schedule. We just feel like we should be going up right now, but in all past cycles, we wouldn't be going up right now. We'd be waiting right into the election to start going to the moon. And so now that's, I guess, what we're waiting for. So we'll see. As long as the S&P and the global markets can remain stable at these levels, then I'm going to remain bullish overall. I don't have any reason to not be bullish because the election season being bullish has the highest hit rate of any other season in terms of seasonality. If you go back in time, it's literally every election just about going back to the 50s, pumping into the election. I'm not saying after, some of them we dump after, but into the election, we're just pumping up, into it, pumping into it. Yeah, we did 1987 crash, but we pumped into George H.W. Bush, pumped into Bill Clinton number 2, pumped into George W. Bush, yeah, we dipped after, but we pumped into his second term. Obama was the only one where we weren't pumping into the election, pumping into Obama number 2, pumping into Trump, pumping into Joe Biden. We're always going up during the election. The hit rate of the election season being bullish is very, very high. So with that being said, I'm just going to stick to the data. I'm assuming Bitcoin's probably going to hold this zone, probably going to hold this trend line, and most likely going to break the falling wedge. And we'll start to trend back up and out and recover going into election season. Mark up the resistance of the descending broadening wedge and the support of this pattern. And then you plot a diagram, textbook diagram on the chart. You can see that Bitcoin is currently within the realm of this pattern, right? If you just plop a diagram on here, you can see we're still doing fine. But this is about the point where we need to start trending higher. We need to hold above that trend line and maintain the descending broadening wedge structure, right? We don't want to fall below this zone. So the lowest I would want to see Bitcoin go is around 57,000. We can still hit that trend line, but if we break down, I mean, that's where things get, a little bit treacherous because it opens us up to, swing back into where all these wicks were, which would likely drive the price down to a major low again before getting a bounce. So as long as we're holding 57,000, I think we might be able to actually play out this descending broadening wedge. It's just taking a long time. Of course, anything is possible. This is not financial advice, but it's interesting that right there, guys, those green lines, that's the monthly candle close zone, and that's right where we bounced. And so we may break out up of this falling wedge again, as long as the S&P can remain somewhat stable and continue trending into new all-time highs. So that is how I'm seeing this right now. To get in my Discord, you have to join the Patreon and then connect to Discord through the apps tab. Every morning we're doing Discord voice chats right after an hour after the stock market opens, where everyone joins in. You can talk to me directly, ask me questions directly, get my opinion on charts, trades, trends, altcoins, all that kind of stuff. Join today. We've built an amazing community since the year 2018, going strong even to this day. So join the Patreon and then connect to Discord inside of Patreon, and you'll be loaded into the Discord chat. And I'll see you guys in the next one.